sometimes the paperwork get in the way, but when you just see these results and you see these people interacting with the work, you know that you are doing the right thing, and that gives you the encouragement to continue.
Hello, I'm Eric Anderson. The voice you just heard belongs to professional artist Alejandro Romero. He is a featured guest in Season 5, Episode 3 of YXE Underground. Take a walk through downtown Saskatoon, River Landing, Riversdale, or the University of Saskatchewan campus, and you will see public works of art. These pieces reflect our community's history, they tell important stories, and some even become landmarks. Alejandro Romero is passionate about the many positive impacts public art brings to Saskatoon, and he shares his convictions in this episode of YXE Underground. This past summer, my wife and I spent a few weeks in Tennessee visiting places like Nashville, Knoxville, and the Great Smoky Mountains. Everywhere we went, we saw really stunning displays of public art. Whether it was a statue or a vibrant mural, there were pieces of art that told stories of their communities and certainly made for an interesting photograph. These pieces also made me think of Alejandro Romero. I first met Alejandro in February of 2020, just before the pandemic arrived in Saskatoon, at a podcasting workshop for newcomers. He was one of the organizers, and we instantly hit it off because Alejandro is just a really warm and inviting person. Alejandro has called Saskatoon home for the past 20 years. He was born in Puerto Rico and became a professionally trained artist. Since 2012, Alejandro has been the public art consultant with the City of Saskatoon and works closely with artists, businesses, community leaders, and city officials to help create and install public pieces of art here in Saskatoon. When I reached out to Alejandro to see if he would be on the podcast, I asked if we could do the interview at one of his favorite pieces of public art in the city. He expanded on that idea and chose 4 pieces that hold a special place in his heart. Alejandro takes you on a public art tour in this episode, and I know you're going to love it. Now, before we start, I should tell you that we did this walking tour on an historically windy October afternoon, which made for some chilly conditions. Let the record show that Alejandro just offered me one of his gloves to keep one of my hands warm, but not both gloves. Because we don't want his hands to get cold.
Exactly. You can have both.
I don't.
I can put them in my pocket. And I have a scarf.
It's a lovely coat, by the way.
It's very old. It's like 20 years old. It's my first coat ever in Saskatchewan. And I cannot part from it.
So you were going to hear some wind in the background, and I have to admit, I was a little nervous about how the tape would sound, but I think the wind really adds a level of excitement to our conversation, and you'll hear Alejandro discuss how public art, especially in Saskatoon, has to withstand the elements. The first stop on our tour is the teepee located in the roundabout near the old farmers market. The piece is called Spirit of Alliance and was commissioned by the Dakota Nation in 2012 to commemorate the War of 1812. It is a work of art full of depth and history that tells the story of the War of 1812 in a unique way. And for Alejandro, it is special because it has become a place where people come to gather. We found a tiny bit of shelter from the wind between 2 of the bronze statues in the piece, and I asked Alejandro why we have a piece of art commemorating the War of 1812 in Saskatoon.
What is remarkable about this story is that one of the people that helped the British take the North Americans from the U.S. down were specifically the Dakota Nation. So then they have an exchange of blankets, and the healthy ones, not the other ones that were full of chickenpox and diseases. And they exchange the medals with the blankets, and then that's how the alliance happened. So that's what the name of the art comes from, the Spirit of Alliance. So it is compound of a chief from the Lakota Nation and also a general from the British Army who also was married to an indigenous woman, and that's why we have the figure of the indigenous woman holding a little girl. And the little girl represents the combination of two nations. They married. She was the daughter of the chief, and that's why the alliance came upon, and that's why they connected. So this is a true story, and it happened, and it's in the oral history of the Lakota people. So when they wanted to convey the story or make that alliance and make that presence for people to gather, they just brought that. They are now in Saskatchewan. They came from the east, so this is home for them. So they wanted to bring that story to the surface and tell the story, and that is represented in these life-size bronze pieces. And also, what is interesting that the face of the indigenous chief was sculpted, and I mean they're very well sculpted, like they are realistic style, and
like you're touching his face right now. Yeah.
And as I touch it, I can just feel his features. And what was interesting in the research that they did, they went to North Dakota, where the latest survival descendant of the chief that signed that treaty lives. So then they took photographs, and then they created the face of that person, which I don't have the name here, but if you go and read in the panels, all is explaining those panels that are in the four direction, north, east, south, and west, and it have all the colors of the wheels. So the grandfathers are also guardians, as they're not boulders to protect the sculpture, they're also the grandfathers that are holding the ancestry, the stories, holding the space in order for this piece to stand and be protected. Also, if you look at the top of the teepee, which is where we are in the middle, it is a light. At night, it illuminates these pictures, right? And then the body of the general, the army person from the British Army, it was modeled based on the real pictures of the general, the survival pictures of the general, and the body is the body of Happy, who was an artist. So then the mother and the daughter are from the White Cap First Nation. They're living people that were modeling for the art. So if you see how many ways of engagement happen in this piece, that's why to me it's a very important piece, because tell a story, bring it into context to why it's here, and also make a place for gathering. And another thing that is very remarkable, it is that timeline that you see. There's a lot of layers. There's a piece of steel that crosses from west to east, because we read from west to east, but technically it should be from east to west. It doesn't matter, right? But what is important is in this timeline, this is the US, and this is Canada. So this is the parallel that divide the two nations. And if you stand in the center, you see the exchange of gifts. And as you see the medals, you see the blankets, and they are almost holding hand on top of the borderline. So it just crosses the borders of the two nations, and they make the alliance even closer. So that's why, to me, it's very important. And if you look at, there's from petroglyphs is all the timeline of the Lakota Nation and the alliance all the way to the future. And in the future, the last panel that is in the ground, it talks about residential schools, and all this was before all this TRC and reconciliation awareness that is now, right? So this precedes that, and that's why to me this piece is very important, and I regard it as one of the best works that we have. But that last panel that is in the ground, and you can see it and you can touch it, was designed by the students of the school in White Cap, elementary students, that the artists went and did some workshops with them, and then they asked, what do you want to see? What is the future hold? It's not only about the past, but it's about moving towards the future, and all these histories and treaties and timelines that are in these panels in the ground represent that, and they wanted to end with the future.
Alejandro, I'm so glad. So I should let listeners know, before we came out here, we were debating whether or not we should go inside and do this interview, because it's very windy today. And Ali, our photographer, is right there. Hello, sir.
Hi.
And so I'm so glad we decided to brave the wind, because you just explained this piece in a way that I don't know you, like, I know you would have done it inside, but like not to this like extent. There's so much here.
We can touch it, we can feel it, we can just get excited about looking at these images, right? Like the amount of detail, like how this was designed, right? These are costumes, the dressings of the time, right? They're period pieces. So the remarkable realism that they conveyed in the piece is just outstanding.
So is that something, Alejandro, like with your role, like for this piece, for example, like were you consulting to make sure that all these details were right, or were you thinking more bigger picture? Like, it's obvious that lots of people work together to make this piece, but what was your role in making it happen?
Well, my work is behind the scenes. I facilitate the whole process from inception, because it was a donation to the city and it was a partnership. The city donated my time in kind, and I managed the whole project. And with Kim Ali at the time, on purpose, was the people that was running, were the liaison between the city and Whitecap. So Kim Ali helped me through the process, and same as Stephanie Stephanie Daniluk is her last name. He was a history. She was doing her master's in history at the University of Saskatchewan, precisely in this topic. So then it was one of those perfect moments when a lot of great minds come together, and we met regularly. We have all these discussions. We talk about this. I remember when we put the call on the contest. I know it was tied between the team that got the awarded the contract, and the other artist who has pieces in the Guggenheim in Bilbao. So then we decided that we wanted to give the opportunity with a novice group, because at the time they didn't have the experience of putting work. So then we worked the team, and we just supported and mentoring them. They were fantastic to work with. I remember it's one of those things that this project ran so well because of the synergy that was created and the vision of Chief Darcy Bear at the time, that he didn't micromanage the project, but he was overlooking that it was done properly, it was done on time. So yes, there was a lot of people involved. I cannot take just sole credit for it. I navigated all the processes in the city, and also was the liaisons and the negotiator between all the parties, which is most of the work that I do as a mediator, negotiator. It's remarkable that this work was finished ahead of time. It was supposed to be finished at a date, but then it coincides. There was planning for the unveiling at a certain time, but we have to advance the date and make it prior to the date that it was, which is unheard in a public art program. So we did it. We talked to the artists, and because we have to pay more money to just put other works in the fabricators, and then they have to. There was also instances that we have to. It's complicated public art because there's a lot of layers, including bringing the pieces from crossing the border with them, right? Like there's letters that need to be done, phone calls, and things like that. Like it's very complicated. So then. We have to come up with some extra money in order to finish, right? We pushed the artists, they were working, they were willing, and it was because the Prince Philip was coming to unveil it. He was doing a tour in Canada and he was going to be here in Saskatchewan, I believe, was for unveiling something at the Dundurn in the military base, because he's a member of the Royal Air Force of Saskatchewan or something. I don't know exactly because I don't get into all those colonial details.
But there was pressure then.
So it was pressure. So then we unveiled it ahead of time, and it was impressive when Darcy Bear, the mayor, and all the dignitaries came with the horses. And then they entered with the horses, and then this was the backdrop of all that. There was dancers, there was a lot of protocol, a lot of suits, a lot of undercover protecting the royal protocols, right? So then it was a big thing. You don't get to have a royal unveil a public art, and this was it, right? So it if all those things, all those layers, and I mean, I'm not a royalist or anything because I don't have any connection with that story. That's not my story. I respect it. So then, all that part, I stepped out, I stepped back, and then they took it. There were people from Ottawa that came from the consulate, embassy, special services, security, and you have to do a check and all that. It was high protocol. So that made it very interesting, right? And this is a story that I don't tell a lot, but I'm sharing it with you because you asked.
Thank you. I know you wanted to take us to one more place along the river, but I have one quick question to ask you before we leave this spot. So you explained the significance of this piece so well, and yet I have to admit, like I've gone to the farmers market lots. I've walked past this place, this piece of art. I've driven past it. And I just thought it was a beautiful piece of public art, and I didn't know the story behind it. Is that okay, Alejandro, that I didn't know the significance behind it? Or from your perspective, do you wish that more people understood kind of the context behind public art?
Well, I think most people don't take time to read anymore. Some of those stories are written in those panels. There's at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 5 times 4. 5 times 4, how much is that, right?
20.
20, right? Yes, 20 panels that explain the stories, right? But people come and interact, and then they forgot to read. Some people read, and of course there's stories that I told you, like the images and how the pieces and about the artists that are back stories that I might write it someday because they're gonna get lost. Those are stories that I know because I was working in the project directly, and one day I might write them down in a book or something.
But you do hope then that people will take the time to read the panels and to understand the history of it.
Yeah, most of the time, I just wish that if people don't understand a piece, or they, instead of going and criticizing, just they make time and try to learn from what they see, touch it, feel it. Public art is to be, it's public and it's art. So it is for people to interact. Yes, we spend a lot of time fixing them and keeping them clean, and pieces that get interacted and touch a lot, those the patina, and we just maintain it to the best level of quality as its inception. But people, if people come and interact with them, they get a different sense and they get a different feeling. But if you go and you want to know more, there's a lot of stories in each one of the pieces. And if you don't read the panels, you can always call the city of Saskatoon or look into the website. There's an IMAP application in the public art section of the city of Saskatoon in culture and heritage, and a lot of histories are there.
Yeah, it's up for people on their own to learn, isn't it?
Absolutely, but I find that people these days are not interested in knowing their history. They're more interested in the immediacy of things. They're more interested in, okay, I saw it, I take a selfie, but are not aware of the content. The good thing is that these images goes and flies and are all over the world, and then other people can see and ask, where is that? And then they ask, and then other people might be stimulated to come and do their own experience and see. This place, there's a lot of people that come here. As you see, there's some orange ribbons in some of the teepees, and it's a lot of interaction in Aboriginal Day and Rock Your Roots. There's always, this is one of the stations that they do water for elders and things like that. Marathons, they stop here, and it's sort of a landmark.
Is that okay that you, because I wanted to ask you, like, I'm just looking around and there's a couple of orange ribbons. Is that okay from your perspective?
To me, it is in the context of the work, and the artists are okay. I have a duty to consult with the artists, and if it infringes their moral rights, I have to take them down. I called them, and they were totally okay with it. Sometimes there's a piece, and we're not going to go there because we don't have time, and it's a little bit out of the way, but there's the runner that people think that is the the guy that lost his leg.
Terry Fox, yeah.
Terry Fox.
Terry Fox, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not Terry Fox, but it is a local Saskatoonian Denny car, and it was made by Hal Holkman, and people dress him up all the time. And the artist was okay with it, and are his friends that go and dress the guy. So it is okay as long as people respect. There has been instances that these pieces have been put a hat, an indigenous hat, or something that relates, or a royalty hat. If it is offensive, we take it down pretty quickly. If it is something funny that creates the attention and bring attention to the piece, usually the artist said, okay, it doesn't bother me. But there have been instances that it infringes the moral rights, and then we need to take it down.
Okay. Where to next, sir?
Yeah. The next one is it's called the Coming Spring, and it is in Victoria Park.
Okay. Let's go.
Let's walk.
Alejandro, where are we right now?
We are in the place that we rock your roots. This little plaza here is called the TRC, Truth and Reconciliation Circle, and we are just under the Coming Spring art. This art was made by a very prominent artist who also from Ontario. His name is Gordon Reeve, and he also was a professor in Winnipeg at the University of Manitoba. Yeah, and it is in Victoria Park. That's how it was known. You have the backdrop of the river, and it is a hill that in the winter people with kids toboggan down the hill. Yeah. So it has become a gathering place, a backdrop for many people. And it's a beautiful, highly polished stainless steel piece that resembles where you just put the beaver pelt to scrape it and prepare it. So if you look at the shape, if you go down the ground, it is that shape. So it is also the circle of life that goes from the cloud to the earth, and it just recycles itself and it comes together. So there's a lot of meaning in this piece. This was another remarkable piece. Originally, we were going to put it in another location, but when the artist came, it was supposed to be over there in the east of the park. Because it is where it stands now is very close to the road, and it is also closer to a Chinese pagoda that was another project that is quite beautiful and stunning. So we thought that if we're going to put it a little bit farther, the piece was going to be outstanding on its own. But when the artist came here, he looked at the location and he was setting this mount. So then we had to negotiate with all the tobogganners, the neighbors, and go and do canvassing in the area to tell them what was coming and get feedback. That's part of public art, that engagement. So,
do you like that engagement when you engage with the public?
I get excited about it. I do like it when it's intelligent engagement and when it's intelligent feedback. Sometimes people come and they just complain about everything, and then it just makes you waste your time, right? Trying to do public relations, right?
Yeah.
So that time could be used for different things, right? So anyways, I love engagement. That's one of the part of the research prior to putting a piece of art. So we talked to the people. We did for this semi-finalists. It was a two-tier call. We knew that we wanted, again, this was $1 for the Canada 150. So then we wrote a proposal to ask for a grant to the federal government because they were celebrating all across Canada. So we partnered with Saskatchewan Tribal Council, and between both of us, I managed the project also, but they were the ones that hold the grant. So then we work in partnership. They have a project manager, and I was the project manager for the city. So we did a lot of engagement. We put out the call for artists, and in that call for artists, we did a two-tier with semi-finalists. So the artists have to come to the indigenous community and present. It was open to public, but most people that attended, because of the theme of Canada 150, was done by indigenous community. So sometimes in the research, the art changes and the concept changes. So the artist presented a concept that was very similar to this, but he hasn't engaged with the community yet. So when he got selected, he has an opportunity to go back to the community, which we did several meetings with the elders and whatnot. So then he learned a lot of information. He was very moved and he learned a lot by the community, which is always very pleasant. And then he incorporated some of those teachings that he learned. So this is an arch that is connected in the center with two spears that come from Mother Earth and just point to the earth. And it's connected in the top, and that's what you hear is jingles, and that represents all the nations that the children that have children that went in residential schools in Canada. And that's what they represent, that's why they're there, and then they were sound. There's the spirit of and that was something that came from the engagement with the communities. They wanted to bring these stories forward, and the artists have to facilitate that process of telling the stories. It's, when an artist comes in public art, it's no longer about them. It's about what is the story that they want to tell. So yes, it's an abstract piece, and for most people they see it and it's pretty. Others go on in detail, and if you see one spear that goes to the sky represents the First Nations, all the First Nations of the province, especially from Saskatoon, and the other one has the Métis Nation. And if you see, there's a band there.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And then there's here the feather, and that's what the communities wanted represented. So the artist incorporated very settled. Another serendipity or synchronicity that occurred for this piece is that it was made in Toronto, in Ontario. And when the artist was looking, we wanted it to be done here, but nobody had the space to build those piers in one space. They didn't have the capacity to do it. So then he found a person, a fabricator, and as he was talking to the person that was fabricated, it happens to be a person that was from the Métis Nations of Saskatchewan. No. And it was just one of those random, beautiful stories that come together. In each one of these ends, there's an offering. There's the Métis sash inside that spear, and inside this spear, there's an eagle feather that was donated both were donated to the artist to do the work and then he wanted to give it back as a memento, as a time capsule. They're there. I'm not gonna tell where they are because we don't want people to go and take it. But interestingly enough, we have to deal with a lot of things on this side because the story of Saskatoon is very diverse, and at one point there were tens of Métis people here, but also after they were displaced, it was a recovery park or a garbage dump. And all the factories that were in this area, they dump all the garbage here, and all this was added to the river. The river went usually all the way here. That's why this is higher. They added on top of that land. So then when we were doing this piece, we have to re-engineer how to fabricate so we don't go and open the surface because it's polluted, right? And that's something, and I mean, if you don't touch it, it's underground, right? Like you cannot go 6 feet deeper. But when to put those piers, you need to go 6 feet deeper to keep the balance. So we have to tell the artist that information, because at the origins, it was gonna be heated. All these piers and all these arches were gonna be heated. But in order to do that, he needed to go very deep in the ground and do that's beautiful sound. I have a story to share about it after. Okay. So then we cannot remove it would add a lot of cost to just management of all the soil, and it has to be contained and it has to be worked properly and covered and all that. So then he found an engineer, very smart guy. He found an engineer that could fix that problem and creating special crews that can withhold the weight, and you don't have to remove the soil to put them in. So then they drill it in the ground, and then just the art was fabricated to just be screwed into those giant screws that were designed just for this piece. So also public art helps to improve technology and solve problems.
I want to ask you about the story about the sound in a second, but you said something that was very interesting to me. You said that when an artist is doing public art and you know they're creating a piece, it's not about them, it's about telling the public story. And I'm wondering, Alejandro, like, is from an artist perspective, because you are an artist, is that hard to sort of give that up, or is it exciting to be able to tell a community story?
Well, that's a very interesting question, and public art in the old days was colonial. In these times of decolonization, the art is part of that process of decolonizing. And when we put the calls, because we, up from the beginning, we talk about the concept of decolonization, we talk about also the importance of engagement with the First Peoples, with the Métis Nation, and all the communities that were going to be impacted by the work, right? So then the artists have to surrender a little bit the ego of, oh, I think this is what would go there. Sometimes there are opportunities for those pieces of work, and that's the last one that we're going to go and see, and that's why I choose that one. But most instances, when they're very large budgets and they're site-specific, we want the pieces to be meaningful. We want the pieces to have that connection with the community. We want those places to be memorable, and for an art to be withstand time, it is important that the artists understand that. So it is quite a process. It is hard for some artists. For others, they understand it. And in this case, this artist was interested in tell the story without sacrificing his contemporary style of work. He have other pieces that are in. He didn't compromise on the materials. He feels confident working in steel, so that's what he wanted to work. He presented some kind of a circle, but it just shifted to be this arch that resembles, yes, still a circle, but it's a circle that was used and in the story, because in the engagement somebody told the story of using this tool to stretch. It's a stretcher for the beaver pelt, right? And how important was for them, and how important was to preserve that story and that art. So then he wanted to bring that forward. So instead of being a circle, it became this type of shape. So then he have to design it, and that's where the artistry come, right? Because it have to withstand time, it have to withstand weather, and if you look at the pieces, they change with it becomes like a sundial. It changed with it's located the true north, true south, through east, and through west. So if you want to just get and the points over there, just point the moon and the sun at certain times of the equinox, right? So it's very thoughtful. Yeah. Artists make a lot of effort. The ones that are very good artists make the effort to just tell the story right and do the research. So artists know a lot of things because you have to research for every piece.
Oh, that's so interesting. I know we have one more place to go, but before we go, or before we leave here, can you wanted to tell a story about the sounds that we're hearing?
Yes, I remember, because there were some complaints about the noise from some of the residents, so we have to mute them. We have to mute them for a period of time, and we did it. But I have to negotiate and mediate with the people, and I invited them to come, right, to the opening, the unveiling, because everybody's invited, but if you don't tell them personally, they won't show up. Even though it's a public thing, and we announced by a public service announcement, they don't come. So I went directly to her and I said, well, why don't you just give us an opportunity for you to meet the artist? I introduce you to the artist. You can ask those questions to him, and you can listen why those jingles are important in the story and why they need to be loud. Those stories need to be loud, need to be heard. And then we're gonna mute it after, but for that day, please let us have them sound and of that day. So I remember when they were talking about the unveiling, and then there were dancers. As soon as the woman was standing beside me, and the dancers with the jingle dress started to walk, is that same sound. Because the artist, clever, he listened to the sound of it, went to a musician and said, what is the key of that sound? I wanted to replicate. So each one of those pipes are different, are replicating that sound. Right? So then when they are at unison and they have different of those sounds, they replicated those sounds in a studio of the different sounds of the different jingles, and then he replicated that. So that's why they have the colors, and they faded a little bit now, but they have the colors of the Métis Nation and have the colors of the First Nation.
And how did that person react when she heard it and understood?
She understood it, and then because we have promised that we were going to mute it a bit, then we muted, but then after we have never had a complaint. It was a very provisional thing. It lasted a few months, and then this piece has been here probably 4 or 5 years now, and we haven't had any more complaints about it. On the contrary, people come here and the sound is very soothing. It's like some people have come to me because I go and walk these places a lot, and I don't say that I have anything to do, and I ask people. I want to know what they think about the pieces. So then there was a mother with a child, and then she said that she comes here often, and I asked her because I have seen her a few times in the summer, and she said, somehow this is very soothing. It's like a lullaby. I bring here if my baby is upset or something. I come here, sit here, and she fall asleep. So those are the stories that are very special, right? And make it.
I love that story.
Yeah. So that's why.
Thank you for sharing it.
Yeah, that's why public art is so special, and I love my work so much. These are the moments that I really connected, right?
Yeah. Thank you for sharing it. I know we've got one more place to go.
Two more, actually.
2 more?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to stick my microphone up in the air and get a little bit of sound here. You were listening to Season 5, Episode 3 of YXE Underground. My name is Eric Anderson, and Alejandro Romero is the featured guest in this episode. You can listen to YXE Underground on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, YXEUnderground.com, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And if you like what you hear, feel free to give a 5-star review on your podcast app of choice. Don't forget to follow YXE Underground on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and that's where you can see some simply stunning photos of this episode taken by Saskatoon photographer Ali Mehdi. I love it when spontaneous things happen when I'm out recording in the community, and that certainly happened when Alejandro, Ali, and I arrived at the Persephone Theater to talk about a very notable piece of art called Land of Berries. We ran into Tara Jansen from the Remy Modern. Now, if that name sounds familiar, it's because Tara was a guest on the podcast 2 years ago when she was working at Wanuskewin Heritage Park. She's now the Director of Development at the Remy and happens to sit on several arts boards with Alejandro. I had no idea they knew each other, so of course I had to ask Tara to share a thought or two about Alejandro and the work he does in Saskatoon.
You know, Alejandro is such an important leader in Saskatoon's art community. I think he offers an important lens as both an administrator as well as an artist. And I think he keeps people honest. Yeah, I think it matters. I think it matters. The work that Alejandro does matters in terms of having due process around good policies of public art, and then also having his own practice.
Alejandro, where are we right now?
We are in River Landing area as well. We are in what is called the Persephone Theater. It used to be the Gather Call building, which was a historical building that was taken down. There was a lot of stories behind why and the how. The value of property was very high, it's prime property. So then when the Persephone Theater moved, they moved to this location. They were in a residential neighborhood in some of the inner city neighborhoods, but then they moved to this prominent place. They got a grant and a donation, big donation funding from one of the arts donors from the city, Mrs. Remy, which we are thankful for all the money that she have donated to impulse the arts in the city. Thank you. So then the Persephone Theater it runs a lot of plays and theater for its it's well known and well established in Saskatchewan. So we have a call for temporary pieces, and then we were looking for walls, because we have one of the proposals that got accepted was from this British artist. His name is Tony Stallard, and he wanted to propose a neon sign with the idea of creating a statement. But in the process of creating that statement, he wanted the statement to be blank for working with community and then find the statement that the city wanted to make. So we took a different step into the process. So then we accepted the proposal. We said, yes, you're going to do this project, but you're going to be curated who you work with. So then we have a brilliant artist also running an indigenous First Nation organization that was unique at the time. It's no longer run, but it ran for 20 years. It was a gallery without a gallery space. It was called Tribe, and the director at the time was Lori Blondeau, an amazing performing artist. She's in Winnipeg now. Managing one of the art galleries, being a professor at the university, and moving forward some of the art practice. She just have an exhibition in Saskatchewan, so if you have time, it's still on.
Okay.
So Lori Blondeau, I asked her and gave her the task to find 3 indigenous artists that we could match and to collaborate with Tony Stallard. Tony Stallard have a very large practice in Europe, but he hasn't been he hasn't put a lot of art in this part of the world, and he wanted to have a presence in Canada. So we put them together. She curated 3 amazing artists: Joseph Naitaho, which is a cultural worker, artist, and storyteller. Kenneth T. Williams, who is a renowned indigenous writer. He is a playwright, and he has plays nationally and also internationally. The Persephone have played some of his work, so as the Gordon Tutusi's indigenous theater. And the last person was the youngest artist at the time emerging, just out of university, which was Joy Arcan. Joy Arcan is a big name, but this was one of her first projects. So this, for me, it was also a temporary piece. And I chose this because it is a statement and it's very bold, but at the same time, it is very subtle, and a lot of people don't even know that it exists. So it is a neon sign fabricated here in Saskatchewan, and it is in a big tall wall that is probably 4 stories high, approximately 40 to 50 feet tall, and at the top there's this beautiful red neon sign that light all evenings every time that there's a play. So most people think that it's an advertisement for the play, or it is a design for the building, which I find it very interesting because it's called Saskatoon, and it's a word for Cree of the land of berries, which was the name given to this city. Saskatoon, Saskatoon, land of berries. That's the translation, the literary translation of Saskatoon or Saskatoon. So this is an indigenous name. So what a most great statement than that. And they were equal partners. The artist lead was Tony Stallard because he came with the concept and the idea, and he got accepted in the program. But as soon as we match him with local artists, they become collaborators. So then it's a piece made by 4 important artists. So it's no longer a Tony Stallard piece, it's a piece in collaboration. And if you see the sign, it says Public Art by Tony Stallard in collaboration with the artists, Joy Arcan, Joseph Naitaho, and Kenneth T. Williams.
That is so cool. And you're so right, because I remember the first couple times I saw this, I didn't know it was in Cree, but I just thought it looked really cool, and I thought maybe it had something to do with the theater. As an artist, Alejandro, like, how does it make you feel when people can have such different interpretations of a public piece of art? And like, because you know deep down what the meaning is behind it, but so many so many people might have different interpretations. Is how does that make you feel?
Well, there's a say that every human has something, right? And every human has an opinion. And there's a say in Spanish that is so vulgar that I'm not going to repeat it, but we all have one, right? So then everybody has an opinion. So same happened with art. When you take art that is abstract, because this is technically an abstraction of the real world. It's a concept. And how can you just be bold with a concept? That itself is an abstraction. So abstraction, you have to have certain levels of intelligence and understanding, especially when it comes to art. And most people are not educated. It's not that they are not intelligent. It's that they're not educated to have those conversations. They don't understand the process of making the art and how sometimes these subtleties that artists put and the layers that artists put are very bold, but are just so gentle and so soft that that people don't get. This is the first sign of this type. It's in Cree language that is in all Canada. After this sign, others came up, and then we have two of these by the same artist group, and there's then there has been reiterations of some of this work that has been inspired by this in other cities. And Joy Arcan took her practice further down, and then he took photograph and started putting signs in Cree language in different places, giving the rightful name. And then in Quebec there were people also doing their sign names in streets, and then they just did sort of a guerrilla art. So this just created a statement for the whole community, and that's the power of public art. It is public, everybody look at it. It started to get different meaning for many different people, and in this particular one is the statement that this is Indian territory. This is Cree land at the time, but it was also somebody Blackfoot land at some point. So there's instances that the territory shift, and as indigenous people said, we don't own the land. The land is here, is to share, and we welcome you. But honor our traditions, honor our culture. So this is, we are here, we are observing, we are lit, we are on. And it's just beautiful in the winter when it's very cold and it's fog in the air, and that neon sign is flashing red and hot.
I love it.
It's a very warm feeling when you just stand and look at it, and you can see from different parts because it's so high.
When was this installed?
It was installed, and we need to get close to the plaque. Every art has a plaque, and it was installed in 2013, and it was part of the Placemaker program. And the Placemaker program is a program of temporary pieces that we lease or we commission for a short period of time. And some of these pieces become permanent if people really love it. This, at the beginning, when I saw the project working, we incorporated in the contract that what he wanted to do with the art at the end of his cycle. So then he cannot take it back to England, so what do you do with it? So then we talked to the Persephone, and they agreed that we can exhibit it permanently here. So we look after the art. Right now it's not on because a lightning struck in the transformer, and we had to replace it. And because of COVID and all that, not a lot of people are doing neon signs anymore. This is sort of a lost art. So it also brings a statement of all those old times where people advertise things and that commercial feel to it. So in a way, it brings a lot of layers of conversation, and that's what a good public art project should be. So this one particularly said that the main intention of the Land of Berry is to develop a work that would be relevant to the location, which is site-specific, be thought-provoking, and to celebrate the local community. First Nation group within a contemporary format that it in time becomes a landmark that inspires civic pride, and it really became that.
You just tapped the word landmark 3 times with your finger.
Yes, because most people come here and take pictures, right? And they said, oh, I meet you at the sign. So that becomes a landmark. I meet you at the statue in the roundabout. I meet you at the Prairie Wind statue. I meet you at the Gabriel Dumont statue. So then this place, I meet you at the Cougar, right? So then these places become an entity on its own, and that's what good public art should be. Places that people can gather, that they can be enthusiastic about noticing it and be there to gather and to celebrate themselves in the community.
I love it. We have one more location,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, where is the last spot?
So
where are you
from
taking
here,
it?
we're gonna drive or walk. You can walk, but it's cold, so we're driving. And it's downtown, and it's in the bus depot, another very populated, transient, walkable area that this art was commissioned. It's not site specific, and that's why I wanted to go there. And it was installed during COVID, and it's like a little bit of a fresh air. It was handmade by an artist from BC, and I will tell you more when we get there. Yes, this is our final stop, and we are in the corner of 23rd, and I believe this is Second Avenue.
7th Avenue. Yeah.
Second Avenue.
Yeah.
And this is a very transited corner because we have a bus depot, and then there's a very pedestrian area. So when we get to put a call for artists, there were different proposals, and then this one stood out, and what we got was a sketch by my hand. So it's very difficult to understand sometimes what we're gonna get. So in that process, you have to trust the past work of the artist, and he have done similar pieces, but not like this. So then we went into, he got selected because the artist's name is Cal Thornley, and he's from BC. He's an artist, Canadian artist from BC. This is a permanent piece, and we wanted it to be something colorful, something that we commissioned before COVID. And it got delayed because of COVID, but we wanted to commission something that was crafted by the artist. So he's a gentleman, an artist, a very prolific artist that is self-taught. He didn't go to art school, which makes it very exciting because his craftsmanship, he did go to school, but he didn't finish it. He had to work, he had family, so then he had to take a job as a welder. So he always wanted to be an artist, and his family, and those stories that he didn't make it through the school education thing. He made it as he's doing his craft. So that's his story. He's an amazing artist, and as you see this piece,
Yeah, like how would you describe this? Like, it's so interesting that he just gave you like a pencil sketching, because this is an incredible piece of art, but there's a lot happening here, Alejandro.
Yes, well, we saw his past work, right? And I don't select. It's the Public Art Advisory Committee that is a committee by council. It's a committee that is selected by council, and then they select the artwork. And we put the call, and we do the research, and every year we put calls. So then this was a particular one because every district, the Business Improvement District, which are also partners with the city of Saskatoon in some of this work, some of the monies and the dollars that come from this, yes, come from the citizens, but it doesn't come from the general budget. We don't take from other areas to put it into art. What is remarkable and unique about this project, and it's unique in Canada, there's no other city that has it, and they wanted to create this model, is that some percentage of the dollars that people pay in parking goes to support the public art
And
program.
I just got a parking ticket.
Absolutely.
So
The dollars that goes for tickets don't go to the public art. That goes to the general budget.
Oh, okay.
But the dollars that everybody pays all the time in the parkimeters go to the improvement of the businesses.
okay. Oh,
So
very
pay
good.
pay your parking spots.
Oh, I love it. Okay,
Yeah.
I will pay for more of my parking now.
So that's what fund this project. So when people say, "Oh, public art, we don't need to invest in public art. That's just dollars that you go somewhere else. It is been like that, and it's unique to Saskatoon, and other cities will kill for this program. And I have to say that because it is important to frame the work that we do. And this piece was selected by that Public Art Advisory Committee, and the Business Improvement District meet with us, and then they see the art, and then we engage with them, and then we tell them what is coming, and they tell us the feedback, what they would like to see. So then when we do the calls, this was a permanent piece that was commissioned for this area. We were looking for colorful art, very playful, that animate this corner. So then we gave the dimensions of the corner, and we asked artists to respond to it. So this art, a lot of artists responded, and this was the one that stood out. Even though it was a drawing, they saw the craftsmanship that he has in other pieces that he have created that were not like this. This is unique. So then when we talked to him, and this was a frame, and it was all metal, and then you didn't see the colors, and then we asked him in the engagement while we do the contract with the artist if he can add color to it, and he said, "Oh, I'm excited, I want to add color." So he wanted to put this the sculpture is stainless steel, and it is a frame that he did of 3 fingers holding a dandelion that is half blown. So this is a dandelion that is half blown, and with the wind you can see that they're moving, right? Yes. But each one of them is handcrafted. This wasn't made in China. This wasn't made by anybody else other than his hands. So he spent time making those one by one, modeling and crafting each one of those, and then put together all the pieces, and you got this wonderful metal piece that everybody that sees it interacts with it, and it's playful. People dislike dandelions because they are a nonsense for most lawns, and people don't like it in urban setting. So I think this is a reminder. The title of the piece is Make a Wish, and usually kids make a wish and they blow, and then the little umbrella seeds fly everywhere, and it propagates very fast. So it is the story that, yes, we are in this corner, we are allowed to dream, we can make a wish, and it got installed during COVID, so it was very meaningful by the time that it got installed.
Wow. So there's a purple finger, there's an orange finger, and then there's a green one here, and then you're right about the, it's kind of funny that I know it's really windy today, but the wind has really played a role in these pieces of art today. That's so interesting.
Yeah, well, public art has to be robust, but also has to have some give in order to interact with the elements. We know that Saskatchewan, the element of wind is very strong, the element of water in means of snow, or when it rains, and thunderstorms too. Like sometimes we cannot install these pieces if there's a thunderstorm because it's steel and it just serves as lightning bolts, right? After it's installed, they're grounded and it's no problem. But in the process of installing, they're not grounded yet. So anyways, I think the organic shapes of it, and then you talk about interpretation of something that for a lot of people is a nonsense. It speaks about cities, how they change, how they shift, and the different populations in the city there. Sometimes we want to get rid of those widths, and sometimes we need those widths in order to create the beauty in the canvas of what a city is.
You have been so generous, Alejandro, with your time today. You've taken Ali and I to 4 different places that have meaning for you. This might seem like a very basic question to end our conversation with tonight, but I want to ask it. Why do you love your job so much?
Well, I'm an artist, so there's not many opportunities that you can have, and I'm a trained artist as well, and there's not many instances that you can get a decent salary that is steady as an artist, and that you get value for the work you do. And also the fact that I'm engaged in civic policy, I'm engaged in community, and I can do all those things and make a change, bringing my knowledge, bringing my capacity in arts administration, and also see a city flourish. We have 80 pieces in the collection, and I have seen it grow when I started 10 years ago in my job, 10 to 11 years in this position. And sometimes the paperwork get in the way, But when you just see these results and you see these people interacting with the work, you know that you are doing the right thing, and that gives you the encouragement to continue. Yes, I have put on hold my art practice, which I don't produce as much as I should, but I am content with that. I produce work that is meaningful. I do interactive art that is site-specific as well, that it is interdisciplinary and also is participatory and has a lot to do with social justice and themes that are contemporary and actual. And yes, I can paint. I'm a trained photographer. I'm a trained painter. I am a trained sculptor. I can do all because I went to school for that. But at the end, arts administration, it's something that I really, really, really like because of the impact that it has in society, because each piece has a little bit of me, even though I didn't create it. Because I put the call, I write it, I research the site, I research, I negotiate, I mediate, I write. There's so many skills that I can use in the process. I get to engage with people in many different manners, and then I just see it enhancing the city, creating conversations, and also having people interacting with them. I don't enjoy the graffiti. I don't enjoy people that vandalize work. I don't understand it. Even if you don't like it, respect the work of somebody else. And that's the part that probably is the thing that it's harder for me to see when I have to go and clean the art or find somebody to clean it. And because I don't understand, why do you want to, even if you don't like the art, there's so many other places that you can damage, right? But it also tells me that people want to leave a trace, and I understand also why they do it, right? So it bothers me, but I also understand it. So I go and clean it, sometimes not as fast when it's a clever tag, but but it's fun too.
Yeah. The city of Saskatoon is lucky to have you. It really is. And I'm very lucky that I've been able to get to know you the last couple of years. And I just feel so fortunate that we were able to spend a couple hours together walking around the city. And yeah, Alejandro, you're amazing. And I'm very grateful for our time together tonight. So thank you.
Thank you very much, and I invite people to learn to know about themselves and learn about the city by looking at the public art. The public art is public. We all own it, and the city put a quite deal of investment in the community, and it is important that people appreciate, don't vandalize, and if you see somebody vandalizing, just contact us or stop it, disrupt it, because it costs money to fix it, and that money could go to other social causes or to just bring more art forward. And again, thank you, Eric, for the amazing work you do. Thank you for all the people that support the arts programs. Thank you for all the people that support artists in many different ways, because it is important that we keep the creative ecology of the city healthy in order just to have a great quality of life. So thank you for this opportunity. I have listened to some of your podcasts, and I hope that this touches people as much as this art touches me. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. You've been listening to Season 5, Episode 3 of YXE Underground. My name is Eric Anderson. I host, produce, and edit this local independent podcast. A big thank you to Alejandro Romero for being on the podcast and sharing his passion with listeners. You can listen to YXE Underground wherever you find your favorite podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, or the website YXEUnderground.com. Follow YXE Underground on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And if you like what you just heard, please feel free to write a 5-star review. I want to say a few thank yous before we wrap up this podcast. I want to thank my cousin, Andrew Dixon, for the original theme music. Thank you to Saskatoon's Danger Dynamite for managing the website. And a big thank you to Ali Mehdi for being such a wonderful collaborator on this episode. Ali is a very gifted photographer here in Saskatoon, and we've been looking for a project to work on for a few months now. So it was pretty exciting to work together to not only tell Alejandro's story, but to showcase Saskatoon's public art. If you haven't done so already, check out his amazing photos from this episode on the YXE Underground social media sites, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and be sure to follow Ali on Instagram. I hope we can work together in the future really, really soon, Ali. Thank you again for all your work. I also want to let you know that new YXE Underground shirts have arrived and they are selling very quickly. So they sell for $30 and all the money goes to the Saskatoon Friendship Inn, which is doing important work helping our city's most vulnerable when it comes to food security. Please reach out to me on social media or my email address, ericandersonyxe@gmail.com, if you would like a shirt. Before I go, I would like to acknowledge that these interviews were conducted on Treaty 6 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis. YXE Underground is a production of the Salthammer Production Company. My name is Eric Anderson. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you soon, Saskatoon.